Tonight, Justin Trudeau is asked a question he wasn't prepared for, so he accidentally answered truthfully. I'll show you the tape. It's February 5th, and you're watching The Ezra Levant Show.
Why should others go to jail when you're the biggest carbon consumer I know?
There's 8,500 customers here, and you won't give them an answer.
You come here once a year with a sign, and you feel morally superior.
The only thing I have to say to the government about why I publish it is because it's my bloody right to do so.
So Prime Minister Justin Trudeau came to Alberta to meet with Premier Rachel Notley. Yeah, that's a sentence that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. Both politicians despise the province of Alberta, especially its oil industry. Here's a picture of Rachel Notley on the left there at an anti-oil, anti-pipelines protest. In case you're wondering if she's changed her mind about Alberta, well, no. She actually did a special sit-down with Global TV after her election, and she told them she was embarrassed by Alberta. Global TV ran that as part of their soft focus biography, or they didn't even think it was shocking for her to say because really, they agree with her.
We maintain the prosperity of our economy, but also make progress on our environmental record, like real progress, so that we can be genuinely proud that we are a leader as opposed to the, embarrassing cousin that no one wants to talk about.
So you've got a premier of Alberta who just doesn't like Alberta. Not oil and gas, not farmers, not entrepreneurs. And here's Justin Trudeau explaining his thoughts about Albertans when he was speaking in French, too dumb to realize that maybe Albertans would get wind of it anyways.
Regardez, le Canada fait dur maintenant parce que c'est des Albertains qui contrôlent notre agenda communautaire et socio-démocratique. Ça marche pas.
So you've got two anti-oil, anti-Alberta politicians, and they met this week and went through the motions of pretending otherwise. Notley has presided over the destruction of about 100,000 jobs in the oil and gas industry, and her carbon tax is still to come. Justin Trudeau has said a dozen times he's going to bring in a form of carbon tax too. He calls it carbon pricing, which is how tricky liberals say taxes these days. Here he was before the election.
Make no mistake, the Liberal Party will be putting a price on carbon.
And he came back from the Paris Global Warming Festival even more gung-ho about it. So Notley and Trudeau will have a contest as to who will get the golden eggs from the oil and gas goose that they are both killing together. Seriously, is the Trudeau carbon tax going to be on top of the Notley carbon tax? Yeah, of course it is. Hey, do you think I'm being too unfair or even too pessimistic here? Do you think they actually want Alberta to do well? I mean, sure, they'll take the lion's share of the money through taxes, but Albertans will still do well. Do you think they want that? Well, about that, take a listen to what Trudeau said when he was in Alberta in response to a question from Rick Bell at the Calgary Sun. Trudeau always badmouthed the National Energy Board. That's the quasi-judicial tribunal that makes sure pipeline projects are safe. Quasi-judicial means they're like a court. They follow rules, they have to be fair in their procedures, they use evidence, things like that. So they're not partisan political activists. So Trudeau had been bad-mouthing the National Energy Board for years, saying Harper had corrupted it, though Trudeau never explained how it was corrupt or who was doing the corruption. It was just an insult. It was really as incoherent as some Occupy Wall Street nut saying, man, the system, it's all corrupt. But that's the same intellectual level as most of Canadian media, so it stuck. Anyways, last month, Energy Minister Jim Carr and Environment Minister Catherine McKenna announced their changes to the National Energy Board system and processes to bog them down, to slow them down. But they're going through the motions of fixing what the Liberals say Harper broke. So here's the question that Rick Bell of The Sun asked. If your new, complicated, slow, costly, Liberal version of the National Energy Board hearings actually manage to approve a pipeline, will you then accept it or will you still veto it? Here, listen for yourself.
Prime Minister, I'm just going to ask a real simple question here that I think some people, at least some of my readers, would like to know. If the NEB greenlights the Energy East pipeline project, So that's if they greenlight the project after all the consultation and all the environmental assessments, will your cabinet approve it?
We're in a situation where we're not going to predict or shortcut any of the processes going through. One of the things that Canadians understand is we need rigorous processes that actually evaluate and engage with concerned citizens, with scientists, with Indigenous groups, and that's exactly what we are empowering the NEB to do properly. And we look forward to the process, and we will continue to live up to the responsibilities that Canadians elected us to do, which is to grow the economy and protect the environment, and understand that those two things do go together.
Well, if you think that Trudeau misspoke, think again. He was asked about whether or not he would approve the Energy East pipeline in Calgary the very next day. Same question, really. And here's what he said then.
One of the challenges we're in right now is that my predecessors have politicized that process. I'm not going to prejudge or shortcut the NEB process as it goes forward. It's important that we have confidence in our regulators. It's important that they do our job, and we're going to allow them to do their job without political interference.
Oh, so no matter what the National Energy Board, the new and improved and liberal style, eco-friendly National Energy Board themselves say, no matter what they say now, if they approve a pipeline, Trudeau still will not commit to letting it be built. So it's not the real process. Trudeau doesn't believe in experts. He doesn't believe in evidence-based policy. The real test is whatever Trudeau says it is, feels it is at any given moment. You could have a 5-year National Energy Board hearing, like a trial, really, with witnesses and evidence run by independent experts. The whole process designed by the Liberal Party. And at the end of it, Trudeau can still say, yeah, no, oil is yucky, or Albertans are yucky, or whatever he would say, and he'll still kill it anyways. So much for a nonpartisan process. I mean, why even bother? If you want to know what this government thinks about pipelines, don't ask Jim Carr, the energy minister, or Catherine McKenna, the environment minister, or even bother with Trudeau himself. Ask Trudeau's friend since college, Trudeau's babysitter, his speechwriter, his policy advisor, his nanny, his best friend, Gerald Butts, the man who is the former president of the anti-oil sands lobby group, the World Wildlife Fund, that took foreign money to lobby against oil and gas. Listen to Gerald Butts. A few years ago, when he was asked about approving a pipeline with this route or with that route, he was talking about the Northern Gateway pipeline in BC, but as you can see, it applies to talking about any pipeline. Take a listen.
We don't think it's up to us to decide whether there should be another route for a pipeline, because the real alternative is not an alternative route, it's an alternative economy.
So Gerald Butts doesn't believe in oil and gas pipelines. He doesn't believe in oil and gas at all. Trudeau knows that. No matter what the National Energy Board rules, no matter what hoops the industry jumps through, the Liberals are not going to approve it. Butts won't let Trudeau do so. I don't think Trudeau was supposed to say that out loud. He's stupid, and I think he just forgot to think those thoughts, not say them. But he said them, and so now we know. Justin Trudeau still hates Alberta. But we knew that already, didn't we? Stay with us for more.
I love Alberta. I've lived here my whole life, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of our free market, pro-business, low-tax, do-it-yourself attitude. And now, I'm watching my province get destroyed. We've all had hints of the NDP's radical views in the past, but no one actually thought they'd ever run this province. Not even them. And now they are. And the worst is yet to come. I give my sad forecast for Alberta in my new ebook, The Destroyers, Rachel Notley and the NDP's War on Alberta. Go to thedestroyers.ca to sign up for your free copy today.
Welcome back to the show. You know, of course, I love the Rebel.media. It is where I live and work. But I rely on other media who fill in the rest of the story. And Breitbart.com has got to be one of my favorite. Yesterday, we spoke to Oliver, who has been leading their investigations into the Million Muslim March through Europe. Well, today we have the pleasure of being joined by Simon Kent, the managing editor of Breitbart London. I used to work with Simon at the Sun News Network, so it's great to see him again. Simon, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You know what? I really rely on Breitbart, especially in Europe. I mean, in the United States, there's a lot of different conservative news organizations I can go to, whether it's the Drudge Report or Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh or Fox News. I mean, there's a lot of voices giving me the other side of the story from the mainstream media. Here in Canada, it's pretty slim pickings. I mean, other than the Rebel, not a lot. But you guys, what you're doing in Breitbart London, you are the leading edge of the contrary counter-mob journalism. Like the media party in Europe is even worse than here. So I know I sound like I'm gushing, but I very much rely on Breitbart London to get me news about Europe that I know I will not find on the CBC or even the BBC.
Well, someone has to do it, Ezra, and I must admit a lot of the times I'm so disappointed in the liberal media over here. Media in general, we get so many stories out of Europe that no one else will report. There's so much self-censorship that's going on. But we send people over to Europe. We send people into the centres. I've been over there myself. I was in Hungary last year. We get there and we get on the ground and we tell the truth. And the truth, if people are offended by the truth, well, that shouldn't be anyone else's problem but theirs. We seek the truth and we tell the truth. And there's a huge story at the moment. And there's this movement of people, almost biblical proportions, all coming at the invite of Angela Merkel. She asked them all in from all over North Africa. She didn't consult Germans. She didn't consult the EU. She gave the invitation, and look what's happened since. The rest of Europe has been convulsed by the sheer numbers of people coming in. And I think we'll find that her own party, her own supporters are starting to question that, the wisdom of her judgment and operating unilaterally. We just see incredible images of people marching across open fields in Europe, straight off boats, crossing the Mediterranean. They land in Italy, they land in Greece, and off they go, heading for this new motherland that Angela Merkel has promised. And they run, and I've seen them and I've met them. I even had them try to sell me a new iPhone 6 in Hungary at the station, because they were so full of lots of things to get rid of, lots of things to pay their way through Europe, and we're seeing Europe change before our very eyes, Ezra.
Yeah. And they're almost all men. We showed a picture of a huge march there. I probably saw 100 different faces, all of them young men between the ages of 18 and 30. But let me ask you about a very specific story that has not been well covered this week in North America, but that you guys have reported, and that is that German intelligence is detecting sleeper cells of the Islamic State terrorist group within these Muslim migrants in Germany. And in fact, I read a case, I think it was yesterday, of German police foiling a mass terrorist attack. These things are not being well reported in North America. Can you give me details about what the German counterterrorism intelligence agencies are saying?
Well, the counterintelligence agencies in Germany came up with a figure of 120 different cells have been monitoring all people by migrants who have come across by the sea channel and by the land channel up through Europe. And they know that it's impossible to check credentials when people present themselves as migrants. There's no way of checking. They take their word for it and in they march. And I think you'll find Islamic State is awake to that, and they see this as a great way to send sleeper cells into Europe. And the German police don't have to be Sherlock Holmes. They don't need a deerstalker cap and a magnifying glass when they're interviewing these young men to realise that they're young, they're fit, they have the means to travel. They're not travelling encumbered with children or with wives or with elderly loved ones. They're not there at all. They're single and on their own. And even if they're not radicalized on the way, there is evidence in Germany and other parts of Europe of these people being, and I say these people, these migrants being radicalized in the migrant centers. This is a huge problem, and Germany is perhaps just putting its finger on a deeper problem that will reveal itself in the next few years as more and more of these people come forward and try and wreak bloody havoc on the rest of Europe.
You know, let me close with one last point, Simon. The risk of a catastrophic terrorist attack is real. We saw that just a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, not even, in Paris, France, when 500 people were murdered or injured in 5 or 6 simultaneous attacks. That's the catastrophic attack. That's the attack on Charlie Hebdo. That's, God forbid, another subway bombing in London, or God forbid, another 9/11 in New York. But there is another worry I have, and even Angela Merkel herself alluded to it, which is not the catastrophic terrorism or even the overt violence, but the change in cultural values, the bringing in of misogyny, of anti-Semitism, of Sharia law instead of Western democratic values. I mean, who would have thought that German women would no longer feel comfortable walking outside of their houses without wearing a hijab? So that's not a 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 risk of a terrorist attack. That is a 100% likelihood that it is now more dangerous for a German woman to go out in the streets. So it's not even the hot, acute terrorism. It's this continuous, slow burn sexism, racism, medieval thinking. Are Germans just going to roll over for this? Are Brits going to roll over for this? Last point to you, Simon.
I think there's a loss of confidence in Western civilizations. There's a loss of confidence in Europe about the civilizations and the way of life we lead over here and the way that we see our lives evolving. I think this loss of confidence is being grabbed by people who would push another agenda. You mentioned some of the issues of Sharia law and people who push a very strong paternalistic view of life, religion, and the view of their own Islamic religion itself. I think they're playing on the loss of confidence. I think Europe has a lot to fear, not just Europe. Look what happened in Ottawa not so long ago as well. This is going to be a global problem that has to be addressed, and we have to tell the truth about it. As if people's feelings are hurt by the truth, then we shouldn't be sorry for that. We should keep ongoing telling the truth and talking about these issues, because we can't ignore them out of existence.
There you have it. Simon Kent, Managing Editor of Breitbart London. Great to talk to you as always. Stay with us, folks. So much more after these short messages.
Looking for the perfect gift? Did you know the Rebel.media has a store? Make a statement with a t-shirt. Have your morning coffee in a Fearless Travel coffee mug. There's even an Ezra Levant bobblehead. It's a one-stop shop for the perfect gift. And don't forget to pick up something for yourself. Go to therebel.media/store to find out more.
Ontario residents are being hosed on electricity prices. The latest Auditor General's report says we've been overcharged by $37 billion over the last several years. That works out to nearly $2,800 for every man, woman, and child. Why? Mismanagement and bad policy choices from the Ontario Liberals. It's going to cost us billions more in coming years. Energy Minister Bob Chiarelli won't take responsibility. He's lashing out. It's time for Bob to go. If you agree, go to firebob.ca. That's firebob.ca and make your voice heard.
Welcome back to the program. Well, as you know, there is a war against Christians in the public square in Canada. Christians are being driven out, and it's not even in some sort of hidden form of discrimination. Officials all over Canada don't hide it. They're brazen about it. Let me give you an example. There is an organization called Voices of the Nations, and every year they like to have a Christian concert in Yonge and Dundas Square, a big public square in downtown Toronto, sort of our Canadian answer to Times Square. As you can see, it's the kind of venue that has lots of festivals and songs. This is what Voices of the Nations was like in years past. An amazing event, a public event with a Christian theme. There have been other themes in that same place by other groups, marijuana activists, gay activists, whatever. This was a Christian event. Well, this year, when Voices of the Nations applied for their permit for this year's concert, well, this is what they were told. I'm now going to play for you an audio recording of a phone call in which Voices of the Nations were told, no, you may not get your permit. Listen.
Okay, well, I've already advised Peter that we're not going to be permitting you guys this year for next year because of the proselytizing on the square. And that's a big issue for us. I know that in the past years we've had discussions with you, or at least my predecessor did.
Oh, really?
Had meetings with Peter with regards to the proselytizing, and outlined very specifically what was allowed and what is not allowed on the square, and that was not adhered to this year.
Oh, Notley, sorry, just to clarify, did we prophesize this year at the event?
Yes.
We did?
Yes. Your performers did.
One of the performers did? Okay, in terms of prophesizing, what do you mean? Like, do we mean like speaking, like, or just singing? Or...
Well, it doesn't matter if it's speaking or it's singing. Either way, if you're praising Jesus and praise the Lord and there's no God like Jehovah, that type of thing, that's proselytizing. And given that, I think that you guys should be looking for a different venue because that's not in line with our policies.
Okay, so are you saying that, is this definite or
no, this is definite. This is done.
So it's definite.
You guys were given warnings after last year and spoken to, and nothing changed. And you were spoken to on site and weren't willing to make any changes during the proselytizing. So no, we can't risk putting you back up on stage again.
Can you imagine that? That's a government bureaucrat saying, we can't risk having you sing a song about Jesus in a public square. I should tell you, I visit Yonge and Dundas Square from time to time. There is a permanent Muslim kiosk with the only purpose of proselytizing. They give out Qurans. They try to convert people to Islam. Yonge and Dundas Square's management, which is under the authority of the City of Toronto, has never kicked them out. This Christian choir, which you saw looked like so much fun, they were denied explicitly because they mentioned Jesus. Well, this is where pro-Christian, pro-freedom of speech lawyers joined the fray. And joining me now via Skype is a lawyer who we helped fundraise. And when I say we, I mean you, our viewers, helped crowdfund. It's Marty Moore of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Marty, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Ezra.
Well, you have been fighting this along with John Carpay, our friend from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Our viewers helped chip in some bucks to help cover your fees. And today you bring good news, finally. The city has blinked. Can you give us a report on how it happened and what happened?
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for your support. And we have excellent news yesterday. The Yonge and Dundas Board of Management reversed that decision that you just referenced to prohibit Voice of the Nations from using Yonge and Dundas Square, and instead has ordered that a permit be granted to Voices of the Nations to use Yonge and Dundas Square for their annual Christian concert on August 6, 2016.
Well, that's great. So I remember when this first started, I think we had John on the show, or maybe it was you, Marty. It looked like the city was digging in. This Natalie Bellman that we heard the audio tape of, she was very resistant, and she was digging in her heels. And this became a bit of a kerfuffle, a tug of war. How did it resolve itself? Was it the threat of litigation? Did grown-ups intervene? Did the mayor intervene? How did you get that obstinate anti-Christian bigot? I'm going to call her a bigot because she was anti-Christian. How did you get them to flip?
Well, the Justice Center became involved at an early stage and immediately sent a letter to Yonge and Dundas Board of Management explaining that this interpretation of a policy against proselytizing cannot be used to justify violating the constitutional freedom that applies there in Yonge and Dundas Square.
By the way, we're showing some footage on the screen right now of past Voices of the Nations events. First of all, it looks super fun. Second of all, the music looks great. Third of all, Voices of the Nations, I think that's appropriate. It looks very multicultural. I mean, this should be something that Toronto should love. It's a festival, it's positive, it's happy, there's positive moral values, and it's diverse, it's multi-ethnic. I mean, it's so amazing to me that they would say to all these beautiful young people enjoying music, no, you can't be in the square because you say Jesus, and for some reason, for the city of Toronto, that's a 4-letter word. That's just incredible to me that they would pick on Voice of the Nations. Congratulations for you for pushing them back. I got to ask you, though, you heard Natalie Bellman in the recording there. She was saying you can't say Jesus, you can't say pray the Lord. She was very specific. Please tell me that Voices of the Nations did not agree to black out those words. Was that part of the deal in any way?
Not at all. No, Voices of the Nations, and it's pleased to announce that the City of Toronto has respected and in our discussions has recognized the Voices of the Nations have the freedom to express and celebrate their beliefs, to celebrate and praise Jesus for sure. And so this concert's going to go ahead with their freedom to have this event as they intend.
Well, that's great, Marty. I'm not Christian myself. I'm Jewish, but that looks like so much fun. And I like gospel music. I mean, you don't have to be Christian to just love it from an entertainment point of view, and even from a spiritual point of view. I don't even think you have to be Christian to enjoy the kind of joyous noise that is obviously going on there. I'm going to make it a point to attend as a member of the audience, and I think we're going to send coverage in the form of news cameras too. Here's my worry, Marty. This is not the first time we have fought for religious freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of association in Yonge and Dundas Square. I worked with another lawyer in the past named Sonia Schickman to defend a black preacher, and his name is Reverend David Lynn. And you might recall Reverend Lynn. Here's a picture of him. You can see he's just sort of one guy who would sing Christian songs. And you see a cop walking up to him now saying, turn that off. And the cop made him turn off his speaker and gave him a ticket and seized his audio equipment and charged him with illegal offense. You see this? I think there were 4 cops that went after David Lynn. He's a Christian reverend. That's at same Yonge and Dundas Square. So we hired a lawyer named Sonia Schickman who fought the charges and got him beat. And now you, Marty, had to fight Yonge and Dundas Square management on behalf of Voice of the Nations. My point, Marty, is this is like that carnival game whack-a-mole. You hit a mole here, then one pops up there. This is a never-ending fight because the people who want to drive Christianity out of the public square, whether it's one black Christian gospel preacher, whether it's Voice of the Nations, they are relentless. And I think we have to fight them every time. Now, I'm delighted that in both the case of Reverend Lynn and Voice of the Nations, we have a win. But we can't let our guard down, can we, Marty?
No, the cost of a freedom is eternal vigilance, and the Justice Center is involved in cases across Canada protecting the freedom of expression in the public square of many different groups.
I know that this battle is over, but the war is not. So I want to invite all our viewers. I spoke to John this morning, and I said, John, do you need help paying for this Voice of the Nations fight? He said, Ezra, no, that fight's over, but other fights are ongoing, whether it's Trinity Western, University of Toronto that we talked about the other week, or he's out in Vancouver today. So I said, John, I'm going to ask our viewers, I'm going to see if we can raise $2,500 to cut a check to the Justice Center Constitutional Freedoms. This fight is paid for from the sounds of what John said, but there are other fights ongoing. And I have to tell you, I predict this will not be the last time that Yonge and Dundas Square itself tries to censor Christians. So folks, I'm not even Christian. I believe in free speech for Christians, for Jews, whatever. That's the way it is in Canada. It's our constitutional freedom. If you support freedom of speech and freedom of religion, if you want to stop this war on Christians, and if you want to help Marty and John Carpe, then go to antichristian.ca. That's a website we set up because these folks are anti-Christian. You don't see them banning Jewish concerts or Muslim concerts or gay rights or marijuana activism concerts. You see them picking on Christians. So please go to antichristian.ca and let's see if we can get $2,500 to keep these guys fighting. Last word to you, Marty.
Well, we appreciate the support of many Canadians across the country who are concerned and excited about defending the free society that we have. And we appreciate the voluntary donations that we receive. So thank you very much.
Right on. You keep fighting for freedom. I know you will. It's what you do. Folks, stay with us. So much more after these short messages.
So open-minded that the brains have fallen out.
What's the point that you're making?
The point that I'm making is that if you're going to propose a massive overhaul to the way the economy is developed in terms of carbon tax, cap and trade, other forms like that, it helps to have some science that is in fact settled.
We've heard you loud and clear. You can't get enough Canadian conservative news and opinion. Why not check out our blog? It's all your favorite conservative bloggers together on a page called The Megaphone. Go to therebel.media/themegaphone or click on the Megaphone menu from our main page to check it out.
Hey, welcome back to the show. My favorite part is your viewer feedback. Mac from Calgary writes, being a bit of an a-hole myself who's naturally rebellious to the status quo, it's a huge relief for me to see that someone feels the same way as me when it comes to all this ridiculous fiascos going on in politics of government. I have been watching the show every night for the past few weeks. Hey, thanks, Mac. Listen, there's something to be said for being polite and for manners and saying please and thank you and holding the door for others and not picking fights and maybe even occasionally being chivalrous. It's good practice as a person in the world. But there's also something to be said for having the right, even if you are naturally a very polite person, the right to fight back as hard as you can, as hard as you want, even as offensively as you want, if it's against the government or some other infringer of your rights, because that's our inherent right, to fight back against the government, because the government by nature, by definition, always grows, and thus the rest of our lives shrinks. Our personal space, our wallets, our freedoms. And because governments themselves are brutal, sometimes the only way to be heard and to rally people is to prick them and nudge them into action through passionate words. And because we're free. And if we choose to be rude, because we think some things are too important just to be meek and polite about, that's our choice. And if others don't like that choice, well, that's their free choice too. I've heard it said by many people, including the comedian Ricky Gervais, that if someone tells you that they're offended by you, that's fair. That's their free speech in a way, right? But if they think their being offended is some sort of trump card, some sort of veto on your life or thoughts, well, no. As Gervais says, the fact that you can't control your emotions, being offended, doesn't allow you to control my actions. I can't speak or do something. So yeah, there are some offensive people out there. Some people we should probably socially marginalize, but we should never ban someone through the power of law for being offensive, because at one point or another, each of us will be offensive in someone's eyes. Here's a letter from Peter in Germany who writes, I am a great fan of your work, but there is one mistake. Former Chancellor Schrader had 3 children from his first marriage. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the correction. I should have double-checked my stats on that. I thought I was right, I was wrong. But my larger point stands. Angela Merkel herself has had no children, and Germany, the whole country, has the lowest birth rate in the world, all of which makes her mass adoption of 1 million Muslim young men psychologically bizarre. Lauren writes, please, please, please tell Ezra to put his hands in his pockets when he's talking. It is very, very distracting and takes away from his messages. Look, Lauren, me talking without my hands or with my hands in my pockets would feel like a straitjacket. It would feel like duct tape on my mouth. Sometimes I worry that I'm standing like a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something if I don't have something to do with my hands. But okay, I'll try and be less effusive with them. Now, Lon sent in this letter. He says, good day, attached is a picture of my means of easy pickup for the Stop the Carbon Tax lawn signs in my area. And take a look at the, well, he's got his address there, 5514 53rd Avenue, Lacombe, which of course is north of Red Deer. Thanks to yourself and all with the Rebel. Keep it up. Now check out the picture. That's what I really want to show you. Check that out, Lon. That is so awesome. You love freedom, and you have a very tolerant wife, I can tell. Just kidding, I'm sure she loves freedom too. And your neighbors I know Lacombe a little bit, good people. A carbon tax would hit that town hard. Let me take a moment to say thanks to you, Lon, and to our other sign captains and lieutenants and generals around Alberta who went to such lengths to distribute nearly 2,500 lawn signs to all corners of the province, all on a volunteer basis. Talk about a huge logistical effort. I think we got more than 90% of them delivered, by the way, which would have been economically impossible for us to do without volunteers. So thanks a million, Lon, and that picture's just awesome. If you haven't got your lawn sign, please accept my apologies. You can email atan@therebel.media and we'll try and fix it. It might be you're in a far-flung part of the province we just can't reach with volunteers, but we got 90% of them up. That's it for the week. I hope you enjoy the shows. Have a great weekend. Keep fighting for freedom.